Okay, welcome to another episode of Most Man. We want you to like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, hit that like button. Give us some comments. We need some comments, boys and girls. We're on Rumble, iTunes. Come over to Rumble. We're not censoring anybody over there. Let's come to Rumble. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartMedia. JoinTheMen'sClub.com is the website. Contact at JoinTheMen'sClub.com is the email if you want to reach out to us. So today we've got a very special guest that he's a dear friend of mine, ex-business partner. Not very long business partner, but you know, we did some cool stuff together. But it's John O'Shea, and he's running for Congress. And man, we were just getting started around here. This is like when we just started firing this stuff up.
Right.
We were, I mean, like ready to put the foot on the gas. Like we wanted to get everything all taken care of. Your name kept coming up, and I was like, O'Shea. And I finally said, "Is it John?" You know,
not a real common last name in Texas.
No. So I'm gonna give you the floor to introduce. You know, I don't want to screw up what you got going. So do you introduce what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, hey, Mark, it's a pleasure to be on. Great to reconnect, and this is really a cool studio setup, and I like the whole premise of what you're doing. But yeah, as Mark said, I'm John O'Shea. I'm running for Texas's 12th congressional district. It's better known as the seat that Kay Granger has held for 3 decades, elected during the Clinton administration. And candidly speaking, it was just kind of time for her to go.
Yes.
So she, right now, I think most everybody feels it. Our country's hanging by a thread. You know, the last 3.5 years under this ungodly administration has just put us on edge. And, it was one of those things where, as far as I'm concerned, you're either going to be part of the problem or part of the solution. And while I appreciate the fact that Congresswoman Granger has served this area both as a congressperson and then as the mayor previous, I don't see her being part of the solution. And I think we need America First fighters in there right now to go reclaim this country.
Everywhere. We need them everywhere.
Yeah. Hey, well, I mean, that's the funny thing about it is they say the America First movement is xenophobic. No, in fact, I want Colombia to be for Colombia first. I want France to be for France first. I want these governments in these countries to actually care about their citizens. But, this crazy thing has taken place in the West. It's not just in the U.S. It's all throughout Western Europe and Australia and New Zealand. It's like the governments hold contempt for the people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, and nowhere was it more prevalent than during the COVID lockdowns. In fact, it's interesting and kind of putting the groundwork together to make this run because, as you and I know, we were talking about this, and I could feel this kind of country slipping away for a while. And so even though I only announced in April last year, I'd been doing some things to kind of start to build the team and get my message out and build up name ID. And there's a group called Texans for Vaccine Choice who I support because nobody should be forced to take an experimental gene therapy, or mandated that they have to take a vaccine or lose their job or have some kind of vaccine passport in order to go into the common square. But so I support that group, and they had a fundraiser, and they brought in State Representative or Congressman Thomas Massie, who is a libertarian, intellectual, MIT grad, a very unique guy. And he got up there and did, like 45 minutes that were almost like pure stand-up routine. He did an impersonation of a fight that he had with President Trump, and he was like, "Thomas, you're going to regret this," and much better than I just did.
Yeah.
And he had people rolling. And then afterwards, my campaign manager and I, Don, we got a chance to interview him, and he said, look, I always was a Second Amendment guy. To me, my litmus test always had been previously, where do you stand on the Second Amendment? Because without the Second Amendment, we don't have any protection for all the other God-given rights. He said, but then the COVID lockdowns happened, and he said, and then I realized, well, really, it was how authoritarian was your response to COVID. And I said, well, Congressman Massie, I appreciate that stance, but really it all reverts to the Second Amendment still, because but for our Second Amendment, we go the way of England or Australia or New Zealand or Canada, where they've treated their citizens horribly.
Horribly.
I mean, I can't believe that. I guess it's just we have a generation of sheep, and we need lions, not lambs, right now.
Well, I think that they're awake. It's like the my billboard guy, and he I talked to him last night, and he might pop in today.
Okay,
but he's only 25 years old, and they are awake, man.
Yeah.
They are this has gone way too far. The millennials absorbed it and took it on the chin, just because they walk around like this all day. Just
right.
As long as their check cashes at the end of the week and their internet's on, that's all they care about.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I think there's a great awakening that's taking place around the country, and I'm sensing it's a political and a spiritual revival. I mean, our Judeo-Christian values are under attack. You know, God and religion's under attack. Our family's under attack. Patriotism and our country's under attack, and you know, true to form, the left just constantly doubles down and doubles down and doubles down. You know, first they tell us, well, there is no inflation. Then they say, well, inflation's transitory, and then they say, well, who are you going to believe? Us with our Bidenomics success, or your lying pocketbook that says that you're broke and you can't afford what you used to be able to afford?
And I think, and you probably see more behind the scenes. Well, obviously you see more behind the scenes than me, but I'm just saying that it seems like the lid has been blown off to where everybody's like, okay, all right, this has gone too far.
Right.
You know, but yes, we are in a. I say this all the time on here. This is a battle between good versus evil. I mean, it is sick what they are trying to do to our kids, to our families. It's sick.
No,
it's Satanism. I mean, it is flat out evil.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you described it that way, because it's funny. I during my campaign stump speeches, I always say, look, this is not Democrat versus Republican anymore. It's good versus evil.
Yeah,
and the lines are very clearly drawn. And, on one side you have, national populists, you have the America First people, you have true Christian conservatives. And on the other side, you have this globalist elite who don't care about people. In fact, they're a death cult. And candidly speaking, they just assumed to populate the planet. I mean, they're trying to get our kids to be sterilized, going through transgender, body mutilation. They're trying to, put people on vaccines that are rendering people sterile or messing with men's hormones and women's, kind of cycles, and they're encouraging abortion on demand, and so, it's funny, as a Christian who gets up and reads the Bible every morning, I read in the Old Testament, when God was upset with like the Canaanites because they worshiped Moloch, and they literally sacrificed children, and I think to myself, well, with as many hundreds of thousands of abortions that are occurring in this country every year, how are we any different? So, kind of a step back, what I would say is that there are a couple of things that I think have led to this awakening, so to speak. And notice I said awakening and not woke.
Yeah.
But the first for me was President Trump. And, I know people have Trump derangement syndrome, and I wish they could just get over it, because you look at the policy outcomes and, we enjoyed peace and prosperity for 3 years before we had COVID unleashed upon us, and then the George Floyd Summer of Love World Tour. But we had 3 years of peace and prosperity. But the thing that was amazing to me was that when he came down that escalator as then announced candidate, all I knew about him was real estate developer, billionaire, brash and bombastic. But he made and a reality star. And frankly, I thought he was a Democrat. But
he used to be.
Yeah, but he came out there and he said, look, we can make America great again. And I stopped and I thought about it for a while, because at the time, not too long before that, I had been in community banking. And so I'm dealing with business owners and, professionals. And I stopped and I thought, you know what? He's right. This country has been under a malaise for the last, 6 or 7 years. You didn't feel good about the country. You didn't feel good about the economy. You didn't feel good about your economic prospects, or that your kids were going to have a better future. And I thought, he's claiming that our elites have been managing the decline of this country. Well, let me take a look into this. Son of a gun, we've been offshoring all our manufacturing over to China, an existential enemy of ours who's stealing our intellectual property and co-opting people and government and education, and and these people don't care about the average American citizen. And lo and behold, he wins against all odds, and then he does what he said he was going to do. Think about that. When's the last elected official in any capacity, do you know?
Reagan.
That's it. I mean, that's the only person I can kind of fall back to is Ronald Reagan, who actually ran on a platform and did what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
Not any of the Republicans, not any of the Democrats, heck, not even most of the senators or Congress people. And so he did it, but his biggest opposition wasn't the Democrats. It was the Republican leadership. It was Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, because we controlled the Senate, we controlled the House, and they fought him from getting his policy agenda legislatively passed. And so he had to do things through executive orders. And I thought, well, isn't this interesting? You always heard this term uniparty or the establishment. Well, son of a gun, it really does exist. And so all of a sudden I realized people who I'd looked up to and admired, I'd worked for or campaigned for or contributed to, George W. Bush, Senator John McCain, Mitt Romney, they're all part of the same club. It's like two attorneys who go at it in a courtroom, and then afterwards they all leave together and go and have a drink. I mean, that was kind of how they were. They were all profiting, selling out our country. They didn't care about the average American citizen. They didn't care about the national security of this country. They get worried about enriching themselves and maintaining this establishment, this rigged system that enriched them and their donors.
Right, and create the slave mentality, go to college, get, here's a free loan.
Yeah, get on the hamster wheel.
Get on the hamster wheel, get in here, get in debt, and then get you a job to barely get you by to pay. They're creating taxpayers, slaves.
Right.
I mean,
well, and then lo and behold, under Trump's administration, we enjoy such prosperity that in 2019, the thing that I love about him is he always considers the working class and middle class. And people in the middle class were moving up to the upper class. The working class people were earning more. They, in 2019, had a 10% pay increase for non-managerial working class people. And he touted lowest unemployment ever for blacks, lowest unemployment ever for Latinos and Hispanics, lowest unemployment ever for, women and for Asians. And I mean, this notion that he was some racist or xenophobe, is just, he loves this country.
Yeah.
And he was proud that he gave a seat to the average American in the room, because you know what they say in D.C., not at the table, not in the deal. Well, not in the room, not in the deal. Well, Trump gave the average American citizen a seat at the table, the most prominent seat at the table. Mm-hmm. So then the second awakening I had was then, again, with the COVID lockdowns, because this just chaps me to no end.
Do you think it was an experiment to see how many people would
well, you know what?
kneel down and to the power?
As crazy conspiratorial as that sounds, I've come to realize that the difference between the truth and the conspiracy theory right now is about 3 months.
Yeah.
You look at Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book, and the real Anthony Fauci, and and it's written like a legal brief, because he is an attorney and he's got a brilliant mind. I may not agree with him on a lot of political kind of policy positions, but I think he's a principled man, and he lays out the case that they had done tabletop exercises on how to respond to just this, a airborne virus that was a respiratory illness coming out of China, and how could they break through people's hesitancy and resistance to, spread misinformation and disinformation about treatments and vaccine hesitancy. They tabletopped it. I mean, it's called Event 201. They actually did it. I mean, the Bloomberg School of Health at Johns Hopkins University published the report. It's on their website. I didn't believe it when I read it in the book, and I went and looked at the footnote, went on the website, looked it up. There it is. It's out in the open. They're proud of it. So yeah, I think at a minimum, this was an accident that China just unleashed on the world because they weren't going to be the only country to suffer. But there are more nefarious options out there, and I'm not ruling them out.
No.
And yeah, to your point about, to see just how much we will go. Well, think about it. All of a sudden, masks. Look, people in the medical profession know a mask is not good. You don't wear a cloth mask on your face for 8 hours, not expecting respiratory problems yourself, and that you're somehow preventing a virus from going through. It's like trying to stop a marble you throw up against a chain link fence. It's not going to work.
Right.
And then, social distancing. Well, 6 feet. Yeah, 6 feet sounds good. That's social distance. And you know what? Let's say now you've got to wipe down your groceries before you bring them into the house and all the people who said that we were the science deniers, no natural immunity. No, you need to get vaccinated. Natural immunity just magically disappeared. I mean, the people acted like we didn't have this body of knowledge before they started trying to change the complete narrative. But the thing that really kills me the most, not just the lying, because they lie constantly.
Oh, it's apparent.
Yeah, it's all you have to do is just dig and not take anybody for their word. and you'll find the truth, but it was that our country was founded under a then very radical premise. All men had God-given rights. It wasn't just people in this country at the time. And you noticed if you read the Declaration of Independence, it said all men. I know we didn't embody it perfectly at the get-go because we had to try and hold a union together and work through some issues, most notably slavery, which was a blight and something that we paid for dearly with the blood of 600,000 people, 80 plus years later. But the right to assemble, the right to free speech, the right to own and bear arms, the right to worship God in a way that you see fit, freedom of the press, the right to petition your government. All these rights were rights given to us by God. Government's primary purpose was to protect its citizens and to ensure those rights from threats both foreign and domestic, not to be this nanny state that got to decide when it was in our best interest to dole them out or take them back. And like I like to say, I used to consider myself a conservative, but what the hell is there really left to conserve when they can just at a whim say, oh, emergency, oh, public good, common good, nope, sorry, we're taking that away. Your kids can't go to school. You can't go to church and worship. Your business is non-essential. You prayed a rosary outside an abortion clinic, so now you're a domestic terrorist. Oh, you attend Latin Mass? Oh, well, we're going to be surveilling you. I mean, it's just, we have been clubbed about the head and shoulders. And to your point, it has been so hardcore, so abusive. We've had our rights taken from us, and we've had our government weaponized against us. The very institutions that are supposed to protect us are being weaponized and used against us. And it was, candidly speaking, I had a personal situation. I mean, my wife had brain cancer 10 and a half years ago, and she went from being my partner to being my oldest dependent. And I try and take care of her, and I go see her every day. She's in this little small home because she requires 24/7 care. And there were 4 women in the house at the time. And our Republican governor said I could not take her out for our daily visit anymore for her own well-being. So I had to explain to a woman with cognitive deficiencies through a window screen why she wasn't being a prisoner, why she wasn't being punished, why she wasn't being locked up, and why I couldn't take her out for our daily visit, which she looks forward to.
Yeah. And that's something I admire about you because you've done that forever.
Well, 10 and a half years.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't miss. I mean,
well, the vow was till death do us part.
Yeah.
So she didn't ask for this brain cancer to come on her. I mean,
well, no, because you run a tight schedule. I mean, I know how tight you run your schedules, and everything's on time. And I was like, man, that says a lot about just that one. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I could say about you that is what makes you you. But that was one for me that I was like, man, that's a solid guy.
Well, I appreciate it, but
yeah,
I know she would have done the same for me. But then the most egregious thing about that was that all 4 women in that facility that were living there at the time caught COVID, and 2 of them died, and they died alone, without their friends and family or loved ones around them. And when I announced that I was running, I heard repeatedly story after story. I lost my husband, I lost my mom, I lost my father, I lost my sister, my aunt, and they died alone, and the hospital kept us out. Not only did the hospital keep us out, but in certain situations, we think they exacerbated their illness because they weren't giving them the attention they needed, or they weren't vaccinated, so they were being treated as second-class patients. And
I've got an example on that. My dad passed away 2 years ago, or probably 2.5, maybe 3, because it was whenever they were reopening everything from COVID. Okay, well, me and my dad had a falling out on the first business. He you know the story, but he took a bunch of money from me, and we were best friends, but it ruined our relationship. He was so embarrassed about what he did, he would not communicate with me. So anyway. And I tried, but I knew that we're stubborn, man. We make up our mind, our mind's made up. And but his was sheer embarrassment of what he did,
right? And
being ashamed. And I know how he is when he gets like that. But anyway, so I get a phone call. I'm working, and she was like, "It's San Marcos," and I knew he was in the San Marcos area, so I picked it up, and it was this nurse, and it was the chaplain of the hospital. So she said, "Mark, is this Mark?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Is your sister Heather?" And I said, "Yeah." "Is your dad Patrick Mahoney?" I said, "Yeah." They said, you need to get down here. He's on life support. He's been here for he's been on life support for 7 days. He's not going to make it. But he refused to tell us that he had children because he just didn't. I don't know what it was. But anyway, the whole point on this is, so we go down there, and I'm like, hey, man, get a lawn chair. This ain't over yet. You know, he could sit up right now and say, I'm tired of this. Let's go. But the whole point, I said, so what is he dying? They said, just his organs are failing. He's lived a hard life. And so I brought up COVID. Mm-hmm. And it was a Catholic hospital. Thank God. Okay? Because they have a lot of money, this hospital. I mean, to take a guy like my dad that was basically homeless, not homeless, but living in a hotel.
Right.
Okay? He was in the best care that he could possibly be in. Okay? Well, we started talking about all this, you know, how many people, because they had all their ventilators in there and their air scrubbers and all that. I said, so how many people are actually coming in here for COVID? She said, we're not putting up with any of that here. She said, we're not taking any COVID money. Because do you know that if you will label that, this is what she told me. Now, I'm not saying that's true, but this is what she told me. She said, we're not taking any money from the government. We're not labeling COVID deaths just because we can get money for it. Hospitals were getting paid to label stuff.
Oh, yeah.
COVID death.
Right.
And that's what I was shocked. I was like, are you kidding me? And she's like, no, look at all this right here.
Well, there was a case of somebody, and I don't remember where, but somebody who literally died of a motorcycle accident, and they labeled that death a COVID death. And then there was a family up in Canada where this woman lost her brother to brain cancer, but he died with COVID, so they labeled that a COVID death. And then she demanded that they take that back. I mean, there has been so much whistleblowing and so much uncovering, and boy, they're fighting it tooth and nail. But one of the people who
they're scared to death.
Well, yeah.
They better be.
There should be some accountability for what they've done. Look, just by them labeling and providing, when you hear misinformation and disinformation, they're the ones. It's confession through projection. So when all of a sudden they say ivermectin is horse paste dewormer and hydroxychloroquine is this dangerous anti-malarial that you shouldn't use, no, those are both proven safe, effective drugs. And it turned out that they actually had medical value in treatment. How do I know that? Because doctors who I watched and looked up to, like Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone, or Dr. Pierre Corey, or some of these people, they developed treatment protocols that kept their patients from going to the hospital, from being hospitalized. And yet our government not only tried to slur and slander those messages because they couldn't require you to take a vaccine if there was no emergency use authorization, and that emergency use authorization was only granted because there was no listed therapeutics. Well, they knew there were therapeutics that worked, were safe, cheap, and effective. But our government's been our government's been co-opted by the military defense complex. Our government's been co-opted by Big Pharma. Our government's been co-opted by the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, look, we find out that there were literally spies. I mean, Eric Swalwell was sleeping with one, and you had another one who was a driver for Dianne Feinstein for years, and they have Chinese Confucius Institutes and all expense paid junkets for these politicians to go over to China where they get money, trapped or honey potted or, it's just.
Listen to this. I have a pharmacist where I get my. He's like, don't pull out your insurance card yet. He said, I'm not allowed to offer you my price. Okay, you have to ask for what my price is, because as soon as you hand them your insurance card, they have to roll through the system. They can't say it's the whole copay thing,
right?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
The copay, your copay is actually going back to the top in its profit, because you could buy that medicine for $2 when you're paying a $15 or $20 copay. If you asked him, said, what does it cost from you, or what's the word for it? In-house, or
generic, or
no? They have the pharmacy.
Pricing.
The pharmacy has their own
wholesale price.
Yeah, and they'll sell it to you at that. So he said, don't ask me how much this costs before you hand me the insurance. He said, but once you hand me the insurance card, I can't say anything. It has to go through insurance.
Well, look, anything that the government touches, it creates distortions in the market.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had a similar experience. My daughter was on some medicines, and we went down to South America for a period of time. Well, I had to pay at the pharmacy one time when we were between insurance cards, and so they said, well, just pay for it, and then when your insurance information gets here, we'll reimburse you and just deduct just everything other than the copay. Well, it was $1,100 for the meds that she was on for the month. Well, I get down to South America and I just walk into a pharmacy and hand down these prescriptions, no insurance. I paid $86.
Yeah.
Now they were generics, but do you think I cared about the brand? If they were safe and effective, that's all I cared about.
Yeah, I just got back from a Western Caribbean cruise. Same thing. I got antibiotics and all sorts of stuff when I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this level of frustration, this being angry about, the government lying to us, the government, taking away our rights. I mean, and especially then when they crossed a bridge too far with me, which saying who I could and could not visit with in my family, that led to some real soul-searching conversation.
Yeah.
And I prayed to God, and I said, man, this is not the country I'm leaving behind to my kids and my grandkids. And, there's this quote that rolls around in my head all the time by a German pastor named Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who famously was part of that Operation Valkyrie that tried to assassinate Hitler and end the war early.
Mm-hmm.
And what he said was, silence in the face of evil is in itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak, not to act is to act. And as I sat there praying to God and hearing this voice saying, well, then you go be part of this change. You go do something about it. I realized, man, if I don't get off this couch and I don't go do everything I can to help try and restore this and turn things around, then I'm just as much at guilt and to blame.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a lot of people like you get into. I've thought about it. There's a lot of ex-business people that, and most man moment, this is the type of guy we need. There's a lot of ex-business guys.
Right.
I'm seeing it everywhere. We're tired of this stuff, man.
Well,
it's gone way too far.
Yeah, 100%. Look, our founding fathers never envisioned us trading the yoke of the King of England to the yoke of some ruling class of professional politicians. They're supposed to be public servants. It's supposed to be God, the people, government. And it's been flipped on its head. And one of the things I'd like to do, because I think we've talked about now that we're going to be doing a little bit of a running series about this during up and through the election. I'd like to educate people on what it takes and how easy this is. Because give me the first 100 people walking into Walmart over the first 100 people walking into Congress. I mean, candidly speaking, the American people are smart. They're decent. They have common sense. Mm-hmm. The people that I hear on TV right now lecturing me and trying to explain how, this bill should pass because we need this to protect the border, or we need to be sending this aid to Ukraine, or, whatever the narrative du jour is, they act like we're stupid, and we're not stupid. It's just a lot of people are trying to get through their daily life, and so they don't inform themselves on this. But I think you're right. I think in going around the district, talking to other people in other states, being connected through media to other people running for office, there are a wave of people stepping up saying, hey, it's time for us to go serve our country. And we're gonna
have to.
Yeah.
It's gone way too far. It's sick. It's evil.
We've got one of two paths. Either we go back to our constitutional republic roots, and we go back to that shining city on the hill that's the bastion of liberty and freedom that the whole world sees, which is what the globalists hate, because as long as there's this example of American exceptionalism and this way of life that the world can see. Because, I love the fact that AOC and the squad always say, well, this country's systemically racist. I'm like, well, then why don't you tell that to the 8 or 9 million people who are illegally crossing our border right now? Because obviously they're not seeing it over there. So they have to tear that down. And because what they want to do is they want to go this full cultural neo-Marxist authoritarianism. You listen to some of our business leaders and some of our government leaders that respected China's response in the COVID pandemic. And I thought, whoa, this is World Economic Forum. This is, kind of this globalist plan that what they want for us. They want us to be, like you said, this kind of meek, subservient citizens that'll just follow orders and not question. Well, that's not in the American spirit.
No, it's not. But here's what I've been recognizing, like what we're doing here is Could you imagine being a 20-year-old kid or a 21-year-old kid right now trying to get ahead or get going? I mean, what a car cost. I'm shopping for land right now in houses.
Yeah.
It is Texas land is not cheap anymore.
No.
Oh, it's $25,000 an acre out in the middle of the boons.
Back when it used to be like $1,200 to $1,400 an acre.
When we were griping then.
Yeah.
But they see it. Their college education is worthless. Now all of a sudden these companies, just because you got a college degree in basket weaving doesn't mean you get a job. They want experience.
Right.
You know, now it's opposite of what it used to be. Just get a degree, right? They can't find jobs.
No. Well, but look, I mean, the university just...
And when they find out the corporate world, how that works, and they're just stuff them in a cubicle, and we're going to get every red penny that we're paying out of you. Yeah. If you don't like it, go get another job.
No, I'm glad I'm not growing up right now. And yeah, in fact, I just one of the things I had this morning is there's this class project over at TCU, and this group of students, why they chose me, I don't know, but they needed to pick either some kind of marketing campaign or a political campaign and kind of talk about its communication styles. And so then they stopped and asked, well, hey, do you have any questions for us? And I said, yeah, what are your outlook? What's your outlook? How optimistic are you on what kind of life you're going to have once you get out of college? And they're like, yeah, we don't really know.
Yeah, and AI's coming too, man. They've got more than just their college loan to pay back.
Yeah. And
the toughness of getting a job. AI's about to come in and wipe out all that.
Well,
and that's the scary part is you're going to have people that, you know, they're capped out right now. Like they're capped out and they're struggling. I've talked to a lot of people about this. They're capped out. They're not going to make any more. And how do you keep moving forward if you're capped out?
Well, yeah, and look, to that point, 60% of this country right now is living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, but the sad thing of this is it doesn't have to be this way. You know, every single crisis that we're facing right now is self-inflicted, and it's intentional.
Intentional. Can we break the system?
Right. Oh, yep. I mean,
it's what's happening right. You can't screw it up this bad.
No, even
there's no way.
Right, twice a day. And you point to me one thing that the Biden administration has done that's been right. They haven't gotten a single thing right. So clearly it shows me there's a malevolence and an intentionality to this. You know, this whole notion, for example, and I love how the talking heads on media act like we're idiots and we can't figure things out. So they're beating the table right now saying, well, Republicans are preventing us from passing this border security measure right now, which we have to have. And they say that they're concerned about fentanyl and human trafficking and this illegal invasion that's coming in. But by the same token, they're not passing this bill. Well, the bill just only codifies and makes legal this invasion, and we didn't need any new laws. We just needed this current administration to actually enforce the laws that are on the books. It's not like in 2020, Congress repealed a bunch of laws and took some tools away from the president. It's just that they're not enforcing the laws that are on the books. There's no reason when Department of Homeland Security says, well, part of the way that we're dealing with the illegal invasion is to develop an app so that people can get processed through the system faster. I mean, come on, seriously?
No, Trump said it best. We've got so many stupid people running this country. I mean, it's crazy that they think that way. It's just they're dumb people that just they don't understand anything, and they're making heavy decisions for us, and it's scary, man. But I honestly think, and it's people like you that have stepped up to the plate. You know, I remember when you first started doing this, I was like, man, when you told me, you're like, you know, everybody's talking, but this is me walking, and I was like, damn, that's inspiring. I mean, I was like, that's. I think we've cracked the dam.
Yeah. No.
We've been fenced and caged so long. We've busted the fence. And me and Tyler talk about this all the time. We had a podcast about this, and Tyler came up with the analogy, and it was beautiful. But he's like, look, they've caged us for so long, and we've just had enough. We've broken the fence. But we're still crawling. We're not walking yet. We're just crawling right now, but we got to keep crawling.
Right.
You know, and I feel that momentum. That's why I'm just letting you go, because I'm wanting to hear you're seeing this firsthand. This is me just seeing it through my lens and giving my opinion, right? But and I'm not a stupid guy. I'm a bit, you know,
Right.
I've done some stuff in life to where I can, yeah. You can only pee on me so long and tell me it's raining, and
Right.
I can figure out things pretty quick. But I really do. I have confidence. Like my son, I've got a 14-year-old son. Okay, and this was 2020 when Trump was running, and man, he went and got PVC out of my garage and made 2 flagpoles at the gate of we had an entrance at our house that drove up. You know, we had like 10 acres, so we'd drive up to the house, but electric gate. But then he thought he was going to get in trouble with his mom. He bought these flags himself. So behind his door, going into his bedroom, I walked in there one day, and I don't know why I went to shut the door, but I was looking for something like a BB gun or whatever, and I opened the door, you know, go to close the door, and there's this Trump sign. He said, you know, Trump 2020, no more bullshit. And he's like, don't tell Mom. You know, he thought he was going to get in trouble, and she's like, no, you know.
Yeah.
But all of my son's friends, they know exactly what's going on, and these people. That's why I want to get you to meet Dom, our billboard guy.
Okay.
They're passionate, and I talked to him about this last night. He wants to meet you because like I said, he already knew who you were at 25, and he was like, we got to pay attention to this guy. And I was like, how do you know him? He said, we're plugged in. We're tired of this crap, man.
Well, it's very gratifying to hear because so the system is rigged. So first of all, I want to encourage your audience to get involved. If they want to become a volunteer, if they want to think about running for a race themselves, you know, there are a lot of city council seats, there are school boards, there are state legislators, state senators, there are a lot of races. You know, candidly, I chose Congress because my passion is restoring our Constitution, and that's the place where I'd be most effective in being able to help President Trump, because it is going to be President Trump, despite all the charades of having this primary, you know, to see who was going to come in second place.
Even if they cheat, he still got it.
Yeah. Look at what happened in Nevada last night.
Yeah.
I mean, they do because Nevada's a caucus state, and so the Republican Party leadership there were trying to get a score for Nikki Haley, so they rolled out and acted like there was some kind of, you know, ballot initiative that was mail out, and didn't even have Trump on there. It wasn't going to count towards the primary votes for who wins the primary, but they thought they'd at least give her a talking point that the media, of course, would all pick up on and try and deceive the American public. But one of the categories at the very bottom was none of the above, and none of the above beat Nikki Haley by over 2-1. So, yeah, you're right. I think people are waking up.
Well, here's the thing. People don't watch TV anymore.
No.
I don't even have I've got a TV in my house, but my son doesn't. They don't even know what the news is. You know,
they're all getting it online, through social media.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, the media is dead, and they're just still megaphoning to the only people that still watch the news, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and those people vote. I mean, we know that it's the older generation, but and they're proud to vote. But I really think, and you talked about something earlier that you said you wanted to touch on, and I want to hear it. Because it is what you're saying, what goes on behind the scenes. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we already know it's a dirty business, but for an honest guy like you, you know what I mean? It's like Trump. It's what they're doing to Trump. I mean, he just went in and did what he said he was going to do.
Right.
And now he's created his own party. If the Republicans had half a brain, you know what I mean?
Oh, they would embrace it. Yeah. He's whipped up.
He would save that whole party, but they're not.
Well, he did. Look, George W. Bush was the death knell of the traditional Republican Party.
Yeah, he was.
That was not going to be resuscitated. It took a national populist, a kind of an Andrew Jackson type figure, to get people invigorated again and get them in off the sidelines. I mean, right now, the reality of it is, if Trump weren't on the ballot, there's a big, vast block of the Republican voters who wouldn't show up. So they're energized because he's on the ticket. Really, the challenge for the Republican Party is, what do we do in 2028 when Trump's done? We need to find some kind of successor, some person who's going to pick up that mantle and kind of continue it. Because he's opened up the tent. He has said, look, if you're a red-blooded American citizen, I don't care your nationality, I don't care your ethnicity, I don't care your religion. If you believe that you have God-given rights, if you believe that the American working person has value, if you believe in the sovereignty of this country, security of this country, and that, you know, we should embody the American ideal, you're welcome in our tent. And what's happened, you know, like you said, they're a threat to the establishment, the country club Republicans that are worried about corporate tax breaks and limited government. And so, and the consultants, boy, they serve that class, man. We're not using any consultants on this campaign. They are a slippery bunch, to say the least. In fact, I've got some things that have happened behind the scenes where people that we opted not to use are actually trying to put their finger on the scales and start rumors or help support other candidates. But it started from the very get-go because, you know, even though I did not care for the way Congresswoman Kay Granger voted, I respected the fact that she's served in government for so long. And so I thought I needed to tell her in person that I was planning on running a primary challenge against her and just show her that respect and courtesy. Well, I was told what a stupid idea that was. You know, you shouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, you know what the stupid idea is? Using political consultants. I think I'm going on my own. Thank you very much.
Well, no, it's because what they're scared of is you're going to stop the gravy train.
Yeah,
the gravy train's not going to be there no more.
Yeah, well, the funny thing of it is I showed her that respect. As a result of it,
I'm not saying Kay Granger.
Oh,
I'm talking the
you're
whole
talking about the consultant
the
class.
Republican Party.
Yeah,
they're afraid of but I'm just saying they're afraid of the gravy train being stopped.
Right. No.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's
all. Yeah, go ahead.
So, as a result of that, she decided to bow out. She decided not to run again. And then she started looking for somebody to run in her stead. Mm-hmm. And I know she approached a friend of mine, and she asked my friend, would you consider running in my stead? And my friend said, no, absolutely not. But, you know, John O'Shea's running. Why wouldn't you support him? And Congresswoman Granger said, oh, he's way too conservative. And I thought, well, hadn't you just spent the last 28 years telling us that you're conservative? So I'm too conservative? And, you know, I take that as a compliment, actually.
Yeah, you better, yeah.
Because I don't care about virtue signaling. I care about policy outcomes for people. And so she tapped somebody who was a state representative, been in office for 10 years, started off strong Tea Party type candidate, voted well early on, showed conservative credentials. His name's State Representative Craig Goldman, kind of a native son of Fort Worth. And he started off the first two sessions in the Texas legislature strong. Well, then he got co-opted by the leadership. And so his voting record consistently went down. I'll give you a perfect example. Before he knew that this was going to be an open seat and that he was going to run for Congresswoman Granger's spot, he's part of what the Texas scorecard is labeled the Dirty Dozen. They ran this documentary called The Texas Heist, trying to explain to the Texas voter why, when you have an 86 to 64 Republican majority, does our Texas legislature act like they're controlled by Democrats? Well, the answer is there's 12 of them that vote in a block with the Democrats, and they control the power then. They get the Speaker of the House, they get the party whip, they get the caucus chair, and then they control what bills get on the floor, who gets what committee assignments, what gets killed in committee. So this gentleman, Craig Goldman, and look, I have no personal animus for him. He just represents something that I'm diametrically opposed to, which is lying to the voting public and not doing what you tell the voters you're going to do. He ran initially on two platforms, border security and election integrity. Last year in session, you know, we had in November these elections for these constitutional amendments. There was one that was proposed that passed the Senate 29-1. So every Democrat except one voted for this. This constitutional amendment only stipulated you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in Texas elections. Well, of course, the elections are only for U.S. citizens. Should be a non-controversial position, right? It got to the House and it died because Craig Goldman, along with a number of other Republicans, voted with the Democrats present, meaning I'm present here for vote, but I'm not voting in support of it. So I'm not voting no, but I'm not voting yes. So the 100 votes you need, well, mine doesn't count towards that. So
that's crazy.
And he's going to promote himself as a conservative. He's going to go on camera and tell people in these commercials, we got the most effective, border legislation passed. And no, actually BS. When you thought nobody was looking or paying attention to you, you couldn't even support a constitutional amendment saying you had to be a U.S. citizen to vote in Texas elections.
Do they really look, after they're done doing all their line and all that stuff, that they literally can sit there and look you straight in the eye and shake your hand, knowing they just told a bunch of them?
I don't get it, man. There are a lot of things that I've come across in this endeavor where I'm just not sure how these people sleep at night. I couldn't. I don't understand. I mean, again, he talks about so it's funny. He originally was ducking all the candidate forums and debates because I think he thought he had this in the bag. He raised a ton of money from lobbyists. Well, first of all, he had his war chest from being in the Texas House of Representatives. And look, when I say kind of the Bush, kind of lobbyist money. Yeah. So that's the other thing. He was one of the Ken Paxton impeachment voters. Yeah. Not only did he vote to impeach Ken Paxton, our beloved Attorney General, who the state legislature just decided, well, forget the will of 4.3 million voters in Texas who just reelected him with all this information already publicly known. They made a bad decision. We're going to rectify that for him. When the testimony was going on from the secret investigation that was done in this kind of star chamber manner where none of the witnesses were under oath and none of the actual representatives got to hear the actual testimony, so it was hearsay upon hearsay, there were a couple of Republicans who were saying, look, this isn't due process of law. This doesn't follow Texas code. This is against the Texas Constitution. Ken Paxton hasn't had a chance to face his accusers or present a rebuttal or cross-examine. None of these things, any of these things that we normally would consider in an impeachment hearing has taken place. And this is a sham investigation. And if you really believed in it, it would have been done in the darkness of night. And we can't support this impeachment. Well, at that point, they were swaying Republican voters. They knew the Democrats only needed a few Republicans, but they needed Republicans to vote for the impeachment in a block so that there wouldn't be this huge backlash. Well, Craig Goldman was on the floor whipping the vote, saying, we don't care about the Texas Constitution. We don't care about due process of law. You're going to vote to impeach Ken Paxton or there will be political repercussions.
It's sick. That's what I'm saying. It's sick that you're okay with just trying to destroy somebody's life. That's just...
Well, and look, Ken's a personal friend of mine. Yeah. He's been a personal friend for 20 years. And kind of the same thing. He's very Trump-esque. I mean, he's fighting this America First fight in Texas. He's pushing back against this lawless administration. He's suing Google on behalf of the state and the citizens. He's looking into investigating Pfizer right now. He's doing all these things that we wish the federal government would do for us, and he's a thorn in the side of the Biden administration. So it's not coincidental that the Speaker of the House, Dade Phelan, who I hope is made famous and is defeated in a primary this March 5th, found somehow a attorney from the Department of Justice. Merrick Garland's Department of Justice attorney comes to lead this investigation, and then they're having all this money coming in from Texans for Lawsuit Reform, which was the Bush wing. So you had the Bushes teaming up with the Texas quote-unquote Republicans who are Democrat sympathizers teaming up with Merrick Garland's Department of Justice to try and take Ken out.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he did, man. He stood his ground. It was like water on a duck's back. It just rolled right off, just like...
I told him, I said, look, you're going to come out of this stronger, and they're going to regret this decision.
Yeah, he did.
And so here's, if you want to sum up my race in a nutshell, I'm friends with Ken Paxton. I'm endorsed by Ken Paxton. I supported Ken Paxton. I'm running against somebody who tried to illegally impeach him, voted to impeach him, and is endorsed and backed by Karl Rove. So you want to talk about the political antichrist of the Republican Party.
You're not lying there. Yeah, those Bushes turned out to be not good customers, man.
No, they had me duped for sure.
I was duped.
Yeah, the Patriot Act.
Well, but here's the thing. I think that everybody now knows that we've all been duped.
Right.
Whatever side. I mean, whatever side. I've got some friends that are, I'm not going to name them, but I've got some friends that are some Democrats, and they've came to me and they're like, it's time to have the conversation. I'm like, man, I've been telling you for 15 years, man. Like, I mean, Rush Limbaugh changed my life. I mean, that's when I got involved. And it just was common sense, and that's what people love about Trump is even before he ran for president or The Apprentice or whatever. You talk to anybody that worked with him in the past, and he talks to the truck drivers and
right.
They all, hey, you know, he was that way then.
Right.
He's always been that way. This is nothing new for him, and the black community's even coming around to it. You know how many rap songs he was in before he ran for president, but now, you know, like Candace Owens and all that whole movement and all that, just
what does she call it? Blexit?
Yeah. There's a lot of black people waking up, you know, like the other day, you know, these quote unquote sanctuary cities with all these people coming flying in through the border, and we're busting them into the sanctuary cities. The citizens, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but the citizens of the city are like, well, hey, I'm a citizen here and I need money to raise my family.
Not only that, but hey, you're putting them up in luxury apartments, or you're taking over our community rec center, or you're holding them up in our kids' schools, and so now they're having to do remote learning. Are you kidding me? You're prioritizing them over the American citizen. These people entered our country illegally. Now, I understand they feel like they were invited to El Norte by the current occupant of the White House, and we certainly have been spending a lot of money to NGOs to go down there and kind of get this mass migration flow going. And that's the other thing, too. You know, it sickens me that our taxpayer dollars are being used against, not for American citizens, but being used against American citizens. Again, kind of going back to COVID, you remember that one death is too many and don't kill my grandma, wear your mask, get vaccinated, all this stuff. Well, what do we say about over 110,000 people dying of fentanyl overdoses every year in this country? That's twice the total casualties that we suffered in Vietnam. And you saw the protests and mass outbreaks, you know, in response to that. But do you see media covering all the COVID deaths? I mean, the fentanyl deaths that are occurring? And what about the human trafficking? There was this whistleblower from Health and Human Services, Tara Rodas, who recently testified before Congress. And I want every one of your listeners to hear this. And I'm sorry, it's going to be a gut punch, but you need to feel this. She talked about, she went to one of the processing centers because she was fluent in Spanish and she was a case manager and she wanted to be able to help with the processing of kids. And she said, wait a minute, you're taking these unaccompanied minors. We've stopped doing the DNA test to see if the people that they're with are actually related family members or not. And you're taking these unaccompanied minors and you're sending them to known MS-13 gang members.
Yeah. We're
sending them to be trafficked. And your federal tax dollars are being used for that. She said one little boy had been raped and sodomized so much, but by the time he got to the processing center, he had to wear diapers.
God almighty.
And that's our government. So we talk about the 1619 Project, and this country was born in the sin of slavery. Well, guess what? There's more slaves in the world today than there were back then. Yes. And guess who the biggest human trafficker is? It's our federal government.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but those are just the hard facts.
It is. It is. I want to say something on fentanyl. I want to get your opinion on this, okay? Back when I had my concrete company, I had a guy that worked for me who hurt his back, and they put him on this pain management program.
Right.
And they gave him a fentanyl patch. I mean, and he got addicted. He got addicted. Right. I mean, he's totally pulled it out now, but that's when he was doing just fine. You know what I mean? After his surgery. And then they put him on this pain management stuff. And all of a sudden he's addicted to opiate. You know,
right. They give him like 30 days or 45 days or whatever it is. Well, then by that point in time, you're hooked. All you were doing was following the doctor's orders. It's not like you're some junkie living on the street. So do you think
that was a test is what I'm asking? He's a listener. He's a listener, and he will comment on this like no tomorrow.
It is the third wave of opioids that the pharmaceutical companies have rolled out. My mom will tell you, because she was an RN and ran a surgery center, and she said that when they first started coming out with OxyContin.
Yeah.
Because that was the wave prior.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical sales rep said, "Oh yeah, no, this is 10 times more effective and not addictive." And my mom looked at the pharmaceutical sales rep and said, "You can't honestly believe that, can you? I mean, how? Show me the information. Show me the the testing and the clinical trials that show that." Oh well, we'll get back to you on that. I mean, they knew that it was addictive. Again.
Okay. Speaking of, you know about all these chemtrails and all that. Why is there a flu season all of a sudden and we got all these tic-tac-toe things?
Honestly, that's one conspiracy that I haven't delved into, so I wouldn't know. I mean, I know the reasoning supposedly for the flu season every, kind of winter when, respiratory airborne viruses are prevalent and people are rubbing their noses and, gloves and masks and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. But look, at this point in time, I mean, candidly speaking, nothing would shock me. I mean, I would have never thought in a million years we'd have a avowed Marxist in Congress, but we do.
Yeah.
I would have never thought in a million years you'd have massive protests for butchering terrorists like Hamas, marching down the campuses of Ivy League institutions and terrorizing the Jewish students that are going to school there. I mean, it's just this world has gone upside down
quick. But I have faith that we can get it back.
We can. There are enough people who feel like we do.
Well, there's more of us than them.
Way more.
We've been whipped too long, and we're tired of being whipped.
Again, this country needs lions, not lambs.
Yeah,
we need people willing to stand up and say the truth, and unafraid at what names are going to get called. Look, I'm being called all kinds of things right now, as you can imagine. And the funny thing is, half of the slurs I'm getting are from Republicans, that are trying to damage my, chances in this race, or trying to, take me out because they don't want an ally for Trump in Congress representing this district. But
no, because they're going to have to go to work. They're going to have to do their job.
Yeah.
Well, you see what I'm saying? That's why they're so mad about all this, because let's end this gravy train thing. Y'all need to get to work for us. I mean, you're our employee. I mean,
but do you know when's the last elected official you've met who actually acted like that?
No.
Like, I serve you. What can I do for you? What's working for you? What are your problems? I mean,
Trump.
Yeah, Trump. Yeah, and before that, Reagan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame, but we deserve better. I think people have been pushed to the point now where, look, my opponent, he's got, oodles of money, like I said, from the lobbyists and kind of that wing of the party. But I'll tell you what he doesn't have. He doesn't have a volunteer army like I have, knocking doors, texting people, pushing out flyers.
I was shocked when you told me how many people you have.
Yeah. It's
a lot.
It's humbling. But, the thing of it is, I mean, look, you know me, so, I mean, this is just a candid conversation. But people, I've been very grateful that when I talk about my story and about why I'm running and how I try and serve God, and trying to serve God, I need to serve my brothers and sisters who are my fellow citizens, and that's genuinely it. I don't seek a political career. I don't seek an office. I just seek to serve.
You were this way before you ran, or before you even started dipping your toe into politics.
But people who've just met me for the first time, they hear me speak and they go, you know what? You just said everything that I think, or you just said everything that I feel. And you really mean it. You're not.
And that resonates with everybody.
Yeah.
And
that's what we need. We need authenticity. We need people who are unflinching from the truth, and we need people who are willing to go fight.
Yeah.
Not just roll over and say, well, hey, look, we only, they asked for 2 miles and we only gave up 4 blocks and have this death by 1,000 paper cuts. Steve Bannon likes to say, look, since the Nixon administration, the Republicans have won more elections than they've lost, and yet we've lost the country. And I don't think truer words have been said.
No, and it's that the Republican Party is way. That's what I'm saying. There's 3 parties now. There's the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Trump Party.
Well, but so look.
Or how do you feel about that?
No, I think that's an accurate statement. And look, our polling, so we polled the district because what you don't ever want to do is think, well, I'm living in a bubble with my friends and people who think like I do, and yet I'm not really putting my finger on the pulse. So we didn't do a poll to, make sure that
you're winning.
Changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we wanted to make sure we were accurately representing the people. Well, we in multiple different ways, so they didn't know exactly, if they didn't want to answer this question because they didn't want to be labeled MAGA, because they didn't want to be labeled a racist or whatever. Well, then we asked them this way, or we asked them this way, but we kind of gathered that. In our district, which is an R+18 district, so it's very conservative, very Republican. It's 3-1 MAGA to traditional Republican, 3-1. And the ethnic group or demographic that was the most MAGA was the Hispanic and Latino community.
Well, it's because they live with our values.
Right.
They're
cultural conservatives.
They're cultural conservatives, and it's God, family,
country.
Yeah, and country, and
those people,
and they take it serious too.
Those people immigrated to this country legally, and so they value their citizenship above natural-born people. I mean, look, people who emigrate to this country legally, they're the most patriotic people I've ever met.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. You're right.
I mean, I'm only second-generation American, so I can see that trend in my family. I know a guy whose father immigrated over from Cuba. His father loves this country. I mean, I've met Pastor Cruz, Rafael Cruz, Ted Cruz's father. Boy, you won't meet somebody who loves this country more, because he saw what the alternative was.
Yeah.
So, hey, but that's the thing. I always kind of want to make sure I'm not like just going, gosh, thanks, John and Mark. Now I'm going to go get a drink.
No.
I always want to make sure that there's a message of hope. And the good news is 2019 is not ancient history. There's as much damage has been done, and there's been a tremendous amount of damage done in the 3 short years that Biden's been in the White House. We can still get back there. We can still roll this back. And I'll also say, kind of to your point about the Republican Party, well, just think about this. Kevin McCarthy was vacated. You have Mitch McConnell, who rolled out this, border bill that really is codifying the illegal invasion. It looks like they're about to drum him out as minority leader of the Senate.
They need to.
And then you had Ronna McDaniel just be asked by President Trump to step down. After the South Carolina primary, apparently we're getting rid of her as well. So you've got the RNC chair, the Speaker of the Speaker of the House, and the Senate minority leader now, all 3 being turfed out. That makes me very optimistic. Candidly speaking, even my congressional run would have been a lot more difficult if Kevin McCarthy were in there. He dropped a lot of congressional leadership money on against America First candidates in the Republican primaries in 2022.
Yeah, to highlight what you say, I feel that we have the momentum now.
Yep,
we've been holding that rock. Remember the old TV commercial where that caveman's pushing that stone up the hill,
yep,
and you finally get it. We've been holding that rock for so long, but there's more of us than them, and we're pushing the rock now. And I feel the momentum. I'm very hopeful. That's what this company that I'm starting, Most Man, it's about building better men and building a community of people that are like-minded business people that want to help people get out of this slave mentality. We'll create programs to help you get out of this. There is hope.
Yeah.
This is still America.
And we need real men.
Real men.
We need real men, not these beta males that have allowed this country to get to where it is.
Speaking of, in commemoration of Trump running for 47, there's your 47, your serial number 47 for your man card.
All right. Very cool. I'll put this to use tonight.
Yeah, there's a bottle opener on the end.
Well, that's kind of what I meant.
Yeah. But no, I'm just thankful. And, man, when I heard okay, so just a little – I'm not going to get into all of what we did, but me and John worked together. I worked with them for a very short time, just kind of like a consultant type deal, right? And but we connected just like this at the beginning. Well, it doesn't hurt to have an Irish last name,
Right.
But I remember one of our last phone calls. It was like, man, I was looking forward to working together, man. And you said it. He's like, we'll circle back one day.
Right.
And today's the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or what you're doing. Because so what happened, if y'all don't know out there, is Tyler, our producer, he kept talking, because we're plugged in here. I mean, like, we're down for the cause, and that's what this is about. So they kept saying, man, we got this new guy running, for Kay Granger's spot, O'Shea. And I was like, hold up. I don't know what his first name is. And I said, is it John O'Shea? And they're like, I don't know. And so I picked up the phone and called you, and you answered, and you're like, yeah, I'm running for Congress. So we're doing everything we can here to help. And,
appreciate that.
well, we need people like you.
Well, it's going to be grassroots against the establishment, you know, kind of that.
You can win on that.
Yeah, no, hey, look, it's David versus Goliath, and I remember how that one turned out.
Well, I told your campaign manager the other day when we were talking, you know, about what all we're doing. He's going to be on our billboards. We're going to pump his stuff on our billboards. But I was like, I said one time, I said, if he wins. I said, no. When he wins. We're not saying that he's not winning. Like, you know what I mean? There's no ifs. We're putting it out in the universe. I don't know if you believe in, you know, visualization and you know, manifestations.
Right.
Do you believe in manifesting?
So, you know,
just putting positive vibes out in the world.
Yeah, and I believe that in a spiritual sense, and I think the Bible even talks
Yeah.
about it. But, you know, so for example, last night I got
Back
a phone
through
call.
God, though. Yes.
Yeah, that one of the leaders in the party wanted to visit for a glass of wine and just get an update and kind of, because they can't really get involved in the primary, but obviously they prefer me over the alternative. And well, I don't mean prefer me over the alternative. They're friends and allies. They just can't weigh in right now. And at one point, he stopped and looked at me. He said, "Well, you seem, you know, rather resigned." I said, "No, I'm not resigned. I'm at peace. Look, I'm doing the work that God asked me to do. The duty is mine. The results are up to God." And so that's how I approach it. I mean, look, I've seen God's hand in a lot of this. Now, I've seen the enemy's hand in it as well. That just lets me know I've got their attention and I'm over the target. But
well, that's exactly what happened here. That's why I started this. I've had this idea shelved for a long time. And when I went through what I went through, man, now I've always talked to God. I've always believed, and he's always taken care of me, man. I've had so many reasons why I should not be here, but I was always good. I talked to him, but I didn't have the relationship that I should have. But when I was going through what I went through, it was like you say, being called, and I did just one day. I just was like, I need to go talk to him in his house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I went, and I've never felt, and I don't go every day anymore, but there for probably 6 weeks, I went, just if it was 10, 15 minutes, just walk in and say, "Hey, I'm having a good day," or, "Hey, man, please put your hand on my shoulder and get me through this," you know? And I went through, I'm telling you, when I went through what I went through, I had to have, everything had to work out just perfect.
Right.
Or
disaster,
like lose everything. And I had to get to the finish line in sliding into home. Okay. Well, a few things happened that just boom, boom, took that line. And somehow, some way, and it was him. Once I started going to church every day, just to the chapel, it wasn't church every day, just go in and just talk.
Yeah.
Man.
What father doesn't want to hear from his son?
Yeah, I mean, I've never experienced more miracles. Like all the hurt, the worry, the stress. I mean, man, I was like, I'd go outside and pace because I was so stressed out.
Yeah,
and but I remember what I felt like going through all that. I was like, there's a lot of people that don't have the situation that I had a path out because I planned as a businessman to take care of part of my money, you know, but I had to do certain things, you know, bankruptcy and all that stuff to get to it. But there's plenty of times where I just thought to myself, I said, this is why people off themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's what this company is about, is we're going to find those people out there and we're going to pick them up. We're going to lift them up. And there's a way out. And I didn't see, all I saw was darkness, and I'm through it. I'm in the light and a living example that you can.
Yeah.
And I think the same way about I feel the same way about the country. I think it's woken up so many of us, and we're all in this.
Yep.
I mean, you got 100% of my support, and I couldn't believe it because I was like, man, you know, I always wondered, I always called you when I had, just different things going on. Just, hey, man, I wanted an excuse to call you just to see what you're up to,
And you had some interesting things, that was sure.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. But, yeah, I always felt like we would reconnect, and I'm very proud of what you're doing. I mean, it's inspirational. It really is.
I appreciate you guys reaching out and helping out. I mean, it's going to take a ground force for sure, but
we got your back. I can guarantee you.
And if your listeners, if your audience, likes what I say, if it strikes a chord with them, I just ask them to go to o'sheafortexas.org and check out my campaign, see about volunteering, seeing about events that they can come hear me speak at.
Well, how do they donate?
Well, trust me, there's a donate button prominently featured on that website.
Okay.
So.
Well,
and hey, look, even if it's $5 or $10, one of the things that people look at are the number of donors that people have. Like I said, I'm not going to spend as much money as Craig Goldman is on this campaign. I've been outraised 5-1. His money's all coming from lobbyists. My money's all coming from individuals. In fact, I'm the largest campaign contributor to my own campaign, and it's not a loan to the campaign. It's a straight donation because I view it as an investment in this country for my kids and my grandkids' future.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to hit on? And I wasn't like ending the show.
Well, actually, I've got to get to a debate.
Yeah, he's got a debate tonight. Yeah,
I got to go point out Representative Goldman's Texans for Fiscal Responsibility score of a 52, Young Conservatives in Texas score of 62, Texas Right to Life. He professes he's pro-life, a 68. So I just got to do a better job of educating people. And again, I don't bear him any personal animus, but he's not the conservative he portrays himself to be.
Well, I'm glad for once that I got somebody on here that out-talks me.
Yeah, I guess I have gotten kind of
I enjoyed it, man. I mean, and I'm inspired. I'm telling you, you can tell. I can see in your eyes that you're passionate about this, and it's. I mean, but you're the real deal. I mean, like this most man moment that we need people like him in office.
Well, and if you feel something similar, if you feel a calling to this, reach out to our campaign, even if it's not to get involved to help this campaign, and let us know. I'm happy to help anybody else. I can share the insides. We've built up a staff, a volunteer team. We've got connections to all the precinct chairs and grassroots organizations, and we can help mobilize other people. In fact, I'm actually supporting 3 people who are running for state house seats because they mirror our values, and I'm trying to help because, the congressional race is kind of an umbrella, and so if I can lend my support and my volunteer team and kind of army to them on these state legislative races, I'm more than happy to help. And so there's no reason why I'm going to, put down that, kind of tool in my toolbox.
Well, your name is circulating, buddy, for sure. Because whenever you got a 25-year-old guy that's Hispanic, now, and he's got the same story as Dad, I'll let him tell you the story.
Okay.
He's got a great success story.
Well, I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, and when you got that block of guys talking, I mean, we all know Kay Granger, but for a guy that I'm not. You're getting into this. I mean, your name's floating out there, man. So you're making a wave.
Yep.
And I've talked to other people too, just people in my circle, and they're like, "Yep, I've heard of that guy, and yeah, we're with him." So, and I'm going to reach out to all my people in my circle.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, but man, it was great having you. Thank you for what you're doing.
No, my pleasure.
And we'll put all your stuff up on. But go ahead and put all your handles, website, social media. Tell us what all that is, and we'll have it put up on that.
o'sheafortexas.org. It's got all the social media and all the different areas that they can follow. It's got an events section, so it's got media too. Like I've been on Newsmax a couple of times. I've been on Steve Bannon's War Room, Charlie Kirk a couple of times. So it's got my media and stuff up there. And in fact, interestingly enough, it's got a clip from a radio program I did where a volunteer literally just took it and kind of clipped it almost as if it was just one long conversation, 3 minutes. But they labeled it of their own accord, good versus evil, which was one of my lines. So I love the fact that you started with that. So
yeah, well, it is, but there's more of us than them. We can take this back. The alphas are back, and the betas have been running the world, and it's So, well, I thank you, and he'll be on here more. We're going to do everything we can here to help push this to the finish line. So I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody out there. John O'Shea, okay? Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment. This one will be a good one to throw some comments out there where we can answer them next time, okay? Come to Rumble. We are on Rumble. We want to be on Rumble. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartMedia. JoinTheMen'sClub.com is the website, and contact at jointhemensclub.com is the email if you want to email it out to us. We're getting a text code and an app. The app is coming soon, so we will see y'all. Thank you.